Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Iowa Files here at the West Des Moines Public Library. This is a series that is put on in partnership with the West Des Moines Historical Society and the West Des Moines Library with help from the Friends Foundation and you, members and donors, who help us present these interesting a series of programs with people and events and history that make Iowa really fantastically amazing. So, did somebody say fantastically amazing? Just so happens I've got a lady here who fits the bill. Rachelle Long is the Executive Director of Taste of the Junction. Now, it's been interesting because people have said, oh, that must have something to do with food and food only. It is so much more. When we say taste, we are talking about the flavor of Valley Junction, the people that come together and make this amazing community. She is passionate about sharing their stories and recording their history. She is also an advocate for women in the criminal justice system, facilitating re-entry and mentoring programs. And if that's not enough, in her spare time, she is a fabulous baker. So if you need cookies for any event, Shelly's Sugar Shack is awesome. So, yeah. I noticed she didn't bring any cookies here today, but that's okay. We will forgive her. So, we're going to learn more about Valley Junction. The West Des Moines used to be Valley Junction until 1938. So, Rachelle has really made an effort to record stories, especially of those populations that we, frankly, don't have enough information about in our history books. So, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Gail, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you all for being here. I want to say thank you to the West Des Moines Historical Society and the Public Library here for inviting me here today. Let me just tell you a little bit about myself. Gail mentioned I am the founder and executive director of Taste of the Junction. I'm the daughter of Barbara and Johnny Long, Jr. I'm a Valley girl. I'm a proud product of the West Des Moines Community Schools. I graduated from Valley High School. I have 4 adult children and I have 9 grandchildren. And most of my kids, they do live here. I have one daughter that lives in Davenport, Iowa. So just about Taste of the Junction. So if you've heard what I'm saying already, just bear with me. And if this is your first time hearing it, then here we go. How did it come to be? I remembered, like when I was growing up, what life used to be like. You know, just growing up, not in the Junction, but just growing up, and how we as a people came together and just created community. And I was thinking, this was back in 2013, I was feeling like there was a loss of community. I was feeling like we weren't the neighbors that we kind of used to be, because I remember when we were growing up, we were just a very tight-knit community of all kind of backgrounds. So I thought, I'm going to get a hold of some of the old residents that used to live here, because a lot of them don't live here anymore, and see if they'll just come back for a neighborhood reunion. So my thought was, we're just going to have this one neighborhood reunion. We're going to wrap it around food and some music, because that's universal. Because I was like, how am I going to get all these people together? How am I going to get people to come back to the Junction? How am I going to get people that live here to come into the Junction and celebrate? And I thought, something universal, it's food and music. So I invited over 4 or 5 people from the neighborhood. It was Vincent Valdez, longtime resident, Reich Plekas. He went to Valley High School as well, a friend of mine. Dino Rodish, he was a past mayor. One of my nephews, Larry McLaughlin, and I may be missing a couple, but I invited him over one Saturday morning, and I was telling him about my ideal and what I thought about the community and how I wanted to bring us back together. And Reich, he got on the phone, and he called. At the time, the mayor was Steve Gare. So Reich called, hey Mayor, we're over here at Rachelle's house, and she's got this bright idea about doing a neighborhood reunion, and she's wanting if you'll support it. And Steve said, well, tell Rachelle if she incorporates it, I'll support it. I was just thinking about a neighborhood reunion. And I'm like, incorporate. I'm like, I don't know anything like about that. So Reich did all the footwork. He went to the State House and filed all the papers, and he came back a week later and says, we're incorporated. And he picked up the phone, he called Steve Gary, he says, Steve, we incorporated. It's called Taste of the Junction. And Steve wrote the first check. So when we opened up our account at the Veridian Credit Union, it was with the mayor's check. So, and he has been a staunch supporter of it ever since. So what is Taste of the Junction? It's about people, it's about the culture, it's about community, it's about you, it's about me, it's about humanity, it's about everybody. It's about caring, it's about sharing, and I can't tell it all. So, you know, the Taste of the Junction, I named it that for a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons was that a lot of the history has already been deceased. A lot of the history, the first, second generation people have already deceased, and we didn't get their stories. You know, a lot of the stories that we were told growing up, they just lived inside of our living rooms, right? But we didn't like really record the stories. So we can only give you a taste of the Junction because a lot of it is already under the ground. So what I have gathered is what people have remembered and what people have shared. There's so many stories. I can't tell them all, but every year we reach out on social media and on our website platform, and we ask people if you have a story that you want to share with us. And it doesn't matter, like, if you lived in the Junction, if you worked in the Junction, or you come to play in the Junction. A lot of people played in the Junction that didn't live in the Junction. A lot of people that don't live in the Junction still come to play in the Junction. So they're like, how do I get my name? How do I be a part of this thing called Taste of the Junction? And it is truly open to anyone that ever lived in West Des Moines, and at one time Valley Junction was West Des Moines. So it doesn't matter if you just moved here or if you've been here 3, 4, 5, 6 generations. If you have a story about Valley Junction that you want to share, we will take that story in and publish it. And it's really unedited stories. We let people tell the story, and besides just fixing, you know, typos and things like that, we print the stories as we receive them. And so since 2013, I set out on a mission to just kind of like go through the neighborhood, asking people, share their stories, give us some pictures so we can get a glimpse of what the Junction was and is, and share it with other people. Because one thing I remember about the Junction was that we did things together. Our parents, it wasn't by happenstance. Our parents, they worked together. On the weekends, they played together. The neighborhood down there was like a union neighborhood because our dads were skilled workers. They were carpenters, they were plumbers, they were electricians, they were drywallers. And I just remember on the weekends how whatever was broke in the neighborhood, the dads of the neighborhood would fix it. And so you became the unofficial foreman if in your regular job, if you were a bricklayer, well, on the weekend you turned into the foreman. And then you taught everyone else how to fix the fence, fix the ceiling, fix the plumbing. So whoever was skilled in that area turned into the foreman. And I just remember we had a lot of trade and barter that went on through our neighborhood. Very little money exchange. My grandfather, his name was Alonzo Page, but in the neighborhood he was called Daddy Blue Jay. And he had, I guess what you would call a little juke joint on the back side of the house, and he used to sell barbecue. And so, you know, he might barbecue up a few slabs of ribs, and he'd tell me, take these slab of ribs and go over there to Miss Meza. And I'd go over there and give her the ribs, and Miss Meza would give me a couple dozen tacos, and we'd bring it back on at home, and there was little to exchange. A lot of the people in the neighborhood, a lot of the girls, you might have like 4 or 5 years in your ears now, like I do, holes, but the first ones For a lot of people in the neighborhood, it was Miss Argumedo. She lived on 11th Street, and she pierced a lot of the girls in our neighborhood our first ears. And we rarely ran through the neighborhood on the weekend with money. So I was telling people that one of the things I think is missing in our community is stuff like that. Trading, bartering, and sharing our skills with each other on the weekend, because we both got to have a way of life. But Monday through Friday, we pretty much can do that. But then on the weekends, I still encourage people, share your skills, share your time, share your talents right in your own community, because there's a lot of people that they may not have money, but they may have a pot of spaghetti. They may not have money to pay you, but the men are out there working, and the moms would be in there cooking up chicken or spaghetti or tacos or enchiladas, and that was kind of the pay, and the men were okay with that. But as a result, our fences were fixed, the leaks stopped leaking and things like that. So those were my fond memories of being in the Junction, and I kind of wanted to create that feeling. And so I called some of the people and I said, I'm not asking you to come back and live here, but I'm asking you once a year, Labor Day weekend in fact, just come back and put your toe in the Junction and bring back that spirit. But more importantly, what I asked people to do was take the spirit of the Junction back to the neighborhoods and communities that you live in, so that you can show people and share with people how we grew up. We grew up together. It wasn't hard, because our parents purposed. They purposed to be together. So we went to Catholic churches, we were at Baptist churches, we were in Jewish spaces. I mean, we shared cultures. We went to weddings. We were at each other's funerals. So we learned each other's cultures. Well, you know, at a young age, I learned how to corrido, right? And they talked about, you know, we'd be at the Catholic church and they're sitting down, they're getting up, they're sitting. And I'm like, what? My girlfriend was like, just sit there, you'll be good. And I'm like, okay, because I didn't want to be disrespectful. But then when she would come to my Baptist church, we're up and we're at it. And I'm like, you can get up, you can clap. But we learned each other's cultures. We weren't trying to change each other at all. But we were just sharing how, you know, what our cultures were. And it was a nice blend. And it was because our parents purposed it for it to be that way. And so what I've been saying to my generation and beyond, purpose to be together. It doesn't just happen. So when you see our three of our tenants, and I'm not keeping up with the slide, I try to do these things, but I don't. How do we do this? Three of the things we do it on community building, curation and preservation, and cultural education. So our biggest event that we have, it's Labor Day weekend, and we invite the whole entire community to come out. These are pictures from this year, and it's like from 2 to 10, and I mean from 2 to 10, there's dancing in the street. We have a variety of music that goes through. We try to incorporate the youth, and we have really good ties with West Des Moines schools. So the beginning of the day is more youth-centered, and we have youth performances and things like that. And then as the evening grows, it gets a little saucier and saucier, but not to the point where a little kid, even 11, 12 months old, around 9:30, 10 o'clock, the little people are still dancing in the street. So it's really family-friendly, and it's something that you can bring your whole family to. If you haven't been before, I would encourage you to mark your calendars for Labor Day weekend. This year we made it be a 3-day event. We have what we call the Junction Speaks, and that's my favorite, because that's where you get the history, you get storytelling, you get the slideshows, and we kind of pass the mic and we give people opportunity to talk about what life was in the Junction. This year, we have honored several families, and we were so excited. We got to come into the Valor Ballroom, and we had a capacity it was a capacity crowd. I was kind of nervous. I don't know if we should go to the Valley. Don't know if we could fill that up. But the new owners are very gracious, and they've come into the community, and they try to be community-minded, so much so that they did allow us to come in on, we kicked it off this year, it was on Thursday at the Valley, the history, the storytelling, the slideshows, and we don't promote it, but we offer a very ethnic, cultural buffet. And it's kind of like a taste of all the things, not all the things, but some of the things that, the food that we used to eat in our neighborhood. So mark that on your calendar. Our mission and vision, did you put that up? Will you put that up for us? What is it? A vibrant community which celebrates the people, the culture, and the cuisines of Valley Junction. This is what I've been talking about. And our mission is just to create this space where the community can come together so we can share, where we can preserve, and celebrate this ever-changing, culturally rich history of Valley Junction. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you just moved here or you've been here for generations. We want to create a space where when you come into it, you feel like you belong. Not like I'm an outsider coming to this event. No, we want people to come in and feel like, we want you to feel like you've been here 3, 4, 5 generations, even if you haven't. So we purposely pick our entertainment and our food and our vendors to make sure that it pulls a multicultural crowd. So if you've ever been to a Taste of the Junction event, it looks like gumbo, because it's a little bit of everything and everybody, and everyone feels welcome, from 1 year old to 99 years old. And we've had all of that on the street at the same time. You can move. So when you look at there, I put the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why. So for me, the why was, I wanted to find a way. First of all, my mom and dad, they were just huge civic-minded people. They loved Valley Junction. They loved West Des Moines. So my mom and dad often would be at the West Des Moines City Council meetings. My dad was really astute. He would be in the planning and zoning meetings, and he understood what was going on. So as West Des Moines was growing, he said to the city officials, make sure as you're growing, don't forget about the junction. Don't forget about the people. As you're building and as you're growing, and yeah, we want West Des Moines to grow, don't forget about the people, because at that time, West Des Moines was growing, and they were always investing money in the 5th Street Business District. But my dad said, don't forget about the people. And so my mom and dad turned into the unofficial voice of the junction at the city council meeting. So when I moved into the area in 2000, I built my home, I joined the Valley Junction Residential Association, and it was those peoples, it was those elders that taught me how to love our community and what to do. So I thought, how can I help extend their legacy? Because they were getting upward in their ages, the 70, 80, and they were just not tired, but their bodies were growing tired. Their spirit was alive, but their bodies were growing tired. And I thought, what can I do to help extend the legacy? To help extend this work that all these people in our community had started. And so I said, I'm going to start this thing called, I didn't start Taste of the Junction, right? And I thought, this is going to be my way of extending the legacy. My mom always, Rachelle, get on the city council. I said, no, Mom. I'm not city council material. However, I'm a more of a culture and on the art side. And so this is my way. This is one of my whys. This is my way of extending my mom and dad's legacy in this community that they love so much. The other why is, if you ever go into the hardware stores, you see these little books, and they are West Des Moines, Windsor Heights, Clyde, and I'd be there waiting to check out, and I'm fanning through these books, and I'm like, where are we at? And I'm like, okay, and I'd see, but there was just so many books, and I didn't see the people that nurtured me, the people that mentored me. I wasn't seeing them in these books. And so that was another reason for why I said, I'm going to create something so that when we're not even here anymore, that people will be able to see and read about the people of the Junction. These panels that you see are just, this is just a sample of what we call our pop-up history museum. They're double-sided panels, so before you leave, just kind of peruse through them. And if my sister would, turn that people panel around. My sister Valerie, go ahead and turn it around. And then you can just see a sample of not all the people, but as many people that we could remember from Valley Junction. We have the last names of the descendants of Valley Junction. And this is in by no way all of them, but at the time of print, these were the ones that we could remember. And like I said, we put the message out and say, if you want your name to go on the descendant panel, please let us know. So a lot of these people said, yeah, we come from the Junction. We have got ties to the Junction. So when you see those names, that's a lot of different cultures. That's a lot of different people. And those people right there, they taught us how to be community. Did we agree on everything all the time? No, we did not. But they taught us how to love and respect each other despite our differences, right? And so a lot of things that I'm doing, I owe to a lot of those people on that panel. Another why I did it is because my mom and dad, they've been featured many times in print, in the news and in the media and things like that. But I knew there's a whole host of other people in our neighborhood that nurtured us, that mentored us, that taught us, and I wanted to share with the people, the heroes and the sheroes of the Junction that shaped us and kind of made us who the people we were, and it was more than my mom and dad. My mom and dad were out there leading the way, but trust and believe there was a host of people behind them being the wind beneath their wings. And, you know, they just didn't have sometimes the courage to speak, but they were united in voice. And so my mom and dad became the voice, but by no means were they the only ones that were loving and caring and sharing about the Junction. So a lot of those people, they may not mean nothing to a lot of people, but they mean the world to us. You know, every one of them, every one of those families, they had a pack in the Junction. Every parent could tell you what to do. So it didn't matter if you weren't, if your parents were not around, anyone in the neighborhood could correct you. They just had permission to do so. That's another thing. I said, we got to get the community and the unity back in the community so that the youth and the people coming up can know that any one of you can help them. Any one of you can kind of correct them. Any one of you can kind of guide them. Those were the things that helped us, because my mom and dad didn't have all the answers, and sometimes, you know, they were working very hard and they weren't around, but there was always somebody in the neighborhood. I see you over there. I'm gonna tell your mama when she come home. You're like, and so just walking through the neighborhood, you'd walk by certain people's homes and it would just make you walk up a little straighter because you knew they were looking out their window, looking at your behavior. And so we really were raised by the people in the Junction. That's another thing that I just think needs to come back, is that we need to care more. We need to share more and correct people when we can. And if we train our families up to let them know, now, if you see Miss Renee, you better respect her. And if she tell you something, you better do it. If you see Jenny along the way, if she tells you something, listen, right? A lot of times we have, in our culture now, you can't tell my kid what to do. Well, when I grew up, pretty much every adult could tell you what to do. And I just think we're better for it because, like I say, our parents, they weren't around all the time, but there were always eyes on us. And it wasn't judgmental eyes, it was loving eyes. It was caring eyes that were on us at all time, and we knew it. And so it helped us be better citizens, at least while we were in the Junction. Let's see. So these are just some pictures. So, you know, sometimes a picture paints 1,000 words, right? And these pictures paint more than I can say. When you just look at these pictures, you see community, you see unity. I mean, and we have people now that are just coming from near and far. They're lending to the fabric of the city because they're hearing about what's this thing called Taste of Junction. It's just a lot of people coming together, and we've been there 12 years, we've never had an incident. The police said this is the easiest job, and I talked to other people, other police on the force, and one of the younger, she said, I'll never get this job. She said, because this assignment goes first. The police just love to do it. She said, because it's just, it's always a joy, and they've never had to police anyone. They're just a part of the fun. They go to every stand, they get to eat free. But they really do. They take care of us, but they've never had to intervene on anything. It's just one of those spaces where even a little child at 9 or 10 o'clock, the family still feels it's okay for their little one to be dancing on the street. So there's the mayor up there. One day, one of the festivals, he came and him and Sally, they parked their lawn chairs and they sat there all day. You see our city councilwoman, she's in the room. She's our at-large city council, Renee and Marilyn Scepter, and my sister Valerie. So Renee can't get emotional, but she always supports, not just with her mouth, not just with her presence. And it's easy to write a business check because it's the business money. Renee writes her own checks, and some of her checks are larger than some of the business checks. You know what I'm saying? And so Marilyn in the middle, been knowing her all of my life, and she never knows what we're gonna do, but every January she just writes me a check. She said, I don't know what you're gonna do. You're gonna do something. This is from me and Steve. And then my sister Valerie, she's here today, and there's a lot of us, but my sister Valerie is right above me, and she calls me her day one. Because since day one, it's like no matter what, we have a huge family, but usually when either one of us is doing something, we're there for each other. So I appreciate you being here today. My family, when we first started, my daughter, this is my oldest daughter, Natasha. She's my ride or die. They don't volunteer, they get voluntoed. And when we first started, you know, Steve Garrett told me, he said, Rachelle, he said, when you start this thing, he said, you're going to have to show yourself. He said, there's a lot of people that know you as a person, but there's not a lot of people that know you as a businesswoman. He said, so before people tie their businesses and their names to your brand, you're going to have to show them. And so for those few years when we were trying to show them, it was just grassroots, organic, just people like you, just writing checks and making things happen before we got to the space where we finally showed them and we get the civic support. We have great support from the city of West Des Moines. You know, Prairie Meadows backs us. Polk County Board of Supervisors, they back us. But in the beginning, it was just people. It was just people writing checks, making it happen. So, and I won't forget that. I will not forget. And I told him, I said, we're either going to have that. We started out with the Walmart approach, little 5, 10, 15, 20. And I said, we're going to get up to the Von Mar. We're up to the Von Mar now. So we don't have a lot of smaller checks, but we have some great donations coming from the community. I have to say, West Bank supported us when they didn't even know for sure what we were doing. From the beginning, West Bank has been a consistent sponsor of Taste of the Junction. Our pop-up museum is, we started with 3 panels, the people, the culture, the cuisine. We were so proud of those 6 little panels. Well, because of the West Des Moines Community Foundation, we now have 38 panels. We're in our 4th edition. And it's from the generous support of the West Des Moines Community Foundation, gives us the resources and funds every year to do this. When you look at all of this, you see Julia Rowland there. And this is my great niece. She is the daughter of my oldest brother, Jerry Page. He was an educator here in the West Des Moines schools. And this is his granddaughter. So between my great niece, Julia, and my niece, Dr. Nissa Rowland, they have really been the wheel in the middle of the wheel. When I told my niece, Dr. Rowland, I said, Nissa, this is what I'm doing. She's like, Aunt Rachelle, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing this thing called the taste, and I'm talking to Mal a minute, and I'm telling her all about it. And she said, yeah, that sounds good. And I said, we're going to get these stories. And she said, oh, yeah, this sounds great. She said, who's going to do all this? I thought, well, maybe you. You're an educator. Your dad's an educator. And, you know, she's a story. And so the stories that you will see and that you've ever seen, my niece, Anissa, is the one. She gathers everybody's, people write on paper. People give us stories in all kind of different ways. And she gathers it all and she creates a story. Because usually when we make these stories, we have to talk to about 3 or 4 different people in a family to get the whole story, because nobody remembers everything, you know, after a while. But when you get them together, they're like, oh yeah, oh yeah. But usually it's 3 or 4 people in a family that help us create the story. And she gets them, some on paper, some people email, some people call her, but she just does a fabulous job of creating what we have. So maybe it was, we started this in 2013, so around 2017, I asked Julia, I said, Julia, I said, create me something, because she's a fabulous artist. She just graduated from SCAD this summer in Savannah, but she was in high school. And I said, Julia, I said, create me something that represents the people, the culture, and the cuisines, because by now we have been doing this 3 or 4 years. And so, let me see here. This is the first drawing that she did. And she created this. It's the people, the culture. This was in her mind, what she came up with. And as you can see, when you look around the room, everything else has been an inspiration of this first piece of art. This sits in my office, and it's on everything. And so Julia, she took the vision that I had, and she brought it to life.
It's on that pop-up thing right there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful.
And so one year, it was so fun. One year we made a collage, and we just kind of outlined it. I think it was 2019. And we took it to the festival, and everyone at the festival that wanted to could come up and paint a piece of this collage. So at our gallery, we have this collage that was painted by the community of them recreating this piece. We are located, let me just say, we do have a gallery space. It's just been just a little over a year. In 2013, last year, 2023, we finally got brick and mortar space. So our gallery and museum lives inside of the Eddie Davis Community Center. We're at 1312 Maple Street, and it's on the John and Barbara Long Honorary Roadway. So, real proud of that. And so, the gallery is open, like pretty much on the weekends, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or you can come by appointment if you like, and a group of people if you want to come, if you want to bring a field trip of people, so you can see the whole entire museum. It is absolutely worth seeing. Like I say, it's 38 panels. They're double-sided, and you can just peruse through and see the collection of stories that we've gathered over time. Every year we honor different people. So you look on the wall, and our heroes and sheroes are sitting up on the wall, and I think I have a slide that tells me the history of the piece. Yeah, right there. Yep. So we've gathered, like on that slide back there, the descendants, we have like 193 surnames so far, 38 origin panels, and that's what we call these panels because they're like family stories. We have over 50 family stories in our database, and then 12 canvas portraits. And the portraits, they live inside of the gallery. And like every year since like 2017, we highlight 1 or 2, 3 people in the neighborhood, and Julia will paint their picture on canvas. We give the family a copy, and then we keep an original in our gallery. So I would encourage you to maybe schedule a field trip sometime so that you really can see the full essence of what I'm presenting today, because this is just a taste. There we have a full gallery. Go back to the numbers. Yep, right there. So when you look at, like, what is the impact that we're having? And sometimes, some years I wonder were we having any impact at all? But we've really grown into a thing. And so when you look at our numbers, we have over 2,000 Facebook followers. And as you can see, on Facebook, most of our followers are coming from Des Moines. But you can go down the list and see who on Facebook has liked us and following us and keep track. If you're on social media at all, if you're on Facebook, this is a good way to follow us, see what we're doing, and keep track of us. Now, as far as the festival goes, the audience by states, these are the people, they're not just passing through, they're actually booking flights and coming in for the festival. And they're coming from Arizona, California, Colorado, DC, Georgia, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, and Texas. These are just the states that we know of when people come. And so we are really having an impact, because when they come, they're staying in hotels, they're shopping, and they're doing other things while they're here. But it has actually turned into something that people actually put on their calendars. They fly here, they bus here, they get on the train. I told them, I don't care how you get here, just get here if you can on Labor Day weekend. By the cities, we have people all over the metro and throughout Iowa that come in for the festival. So I think we are lending to the fabric of this community. So now I had something I wanted to, there was a, oh yeah, so Sally Dix, she's the director of Bravo Greater Des Moines, and if they give tons of monies to nonprofits all over the city and state, right? And so Sally, they just had the Community Foundation hosted an event called Donor Connect, just like August 28th, and it was the topic, they have different topics. This topic was artful impact. And Sally said that thriving cultural communities that are accessible and integrated and enhance the area's creative vitality was the topic. And it was to help continuously flourish community. The importance of arts, culture, and heritage is a regional priority. And I would like to think that we're lending to this regional priority. Sally said, a healthy cultural ecosystem goes beyond the quality of life. And arts and culture, she said, drives the economy. They support education and jobs, and they advance every sector in our region. And so I think we're helping move the needle on that. We're bringing culture, we're bringing people. People are actually coming in from different states to be a part of the fabric of our community. And so I want to go to some other comments. Yeah, right here. So here's what some of the people from the community are saying. And I have to start with Steve because he wrote that first check. When he was mayor, he said, I was able to attend and participate in many wonderful and important events in the city of West Des Moines. In my opinion, the Taste of the Junction was the most culturally important because it celebrated the city's beginning as a railroad town with a very diverse population. Taste of the Junction brings generations of families together whose history started in Valley Junction. Like mine, I am a fourth-generation West Des Moines resident, and it allows many Central Iowa residents to learn more about the history of West Des Moines, and it showcases and celebrates the cultural diversity that West Des Moines has embraced since its beginning in 1893. This celebration blesses all of Central Iowa, and this was from our former mayor, Steve Gare. Pretty impressive. Next one, please. And then we have our very own Renee Hardman. She's our at-large city council member. She's a lot of things. She's also the current CEO of LSI. Renee said, Taste of the Junction is such an impactful organization that engages the community in lifting up a sense of culture and heritage. It is vital that we preserve our heritage and tell our stories. If you don't know where you came from, how can you shape your future? I appreciate and value that the Taste of the Junction enhances the sense of community, it keeps us all connected, and more importantly, it provides opportunity for small businesses to promote their services. Thank you, Renee, for that. From former Mayor Dino Rodish, he said, what a wonderful event. We honored their family this year. What a wonderful event for Valley Junction and the city of West Des Moines, preserving history of the families that made Valley Junction what it is today. Too much history gets lost in today's hectic world. Taste of the Junction is documenting this very important history. Many thanks to the board of directors and the many volunteers that have made this an incredible event. And there's several other quotes that I'll just put up there and you can just read. But I'm really thankful for the work that has went forth. And if we never have another panel, if I don't wake up tomorrow, I feel like I've made a mark. We've made the mark so that, and the whole point was to, when people come through the junction, when they come through looking at our history, they will find us. They will find our stories, and they can get like a taste, just a taste, because we can't tell it all, but just a taste of the junction. So in closing, I want to say, I really appreciate this honor to be here. We can't do it without support. Like I say, we have support from Prairie Meadows, the city of West Des Moines. They've been partnering with us. West Bank, Green State Credit Union, Polk County Board of Supervisors, NAACP, Valor Ballroom, and West Des Moines Community Foundation, Renee, Dr. Mary Chapman, Alonda Long, Valora James, Margaret Long, and Matt McKinney. These are some of the, what I call major donors, people that actually write their personal checks and give us an opportunity to come out and share and do things like this. So we are available to come out to community events like this. If you want to book us, if you want to come in to the gallery for a tour, we'd be open to that. And you can just do a walk-in. You can walk through the gallery, or we can guide you through the gallery, any way you want to do it. So you can just get in touch with Gail, and she can schedule that at any time, and we would love to open the doors so that you can see the full essence of the gallery. I think I've said all I wanted to say. So I really appreciate this time, and I do just want to leave a little space if anyone has any questions. If I can answer, I'll try to do that.
I've got a question from somebody online.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, I jumped in front of you. They really loved your story about sharing food, that all of the neighbors would get together and work on each other's projects and sharing food. Is there one story in particular that you think really needs to be told about the history and the experience of living in the junction?
Well, there's so many, and that's why you see all these panels. There's so many stories, but if there was one that I would pick, it would be the beginning. And this is across the tracks. So when a lot of people of color migrated to what is now Valley Junction, they lived across the tracks. Now we might call it redlining today, probably call it redlining back then as well. But if you were of color, you was on this side of railroad, and it was called across the tracks. And so this picture here, I want to get back to this mic. This is a picture of across the tracks. So when you see this space right here, this was the neighborhood, and as you can see, there's Fifth Street over there, right? And so when you see this across the tracks, that's this. It was right by Johnny's Vets Club, and it's where a lot of our families came from. And for when we created this, these were the families that we could remember. Let me see. These were the families that we could remember that lived across the tracks at the Lincoln Street. That's where Meals from the Heartland is now, right? But there was a thriving little neighborhood that had the Hispanics and the African Americans lived in these spaces, and sometimes they lived in different houses. So they might have started here, because this one says the Pages, then the Underwoods, right? So this was their little neighborhood, and the thing about it was that when people of color were allowed to come on the other side of the track, it was just the 100 block. So a lot of our homes, a lot of our history, where do you live? 106, 123, 118, 127. That was by design. Because when we came over, when our parents and grandparents came over, that's the only place they could buy or rent. And then of course, over time, they got into the 200, 300, 400 blocks, and now we're all over West Des Moines. But in the beginning, they were across the tracks. And even before the tracks, there was a place called the Hawkeye. A lot of our fathers worked at the Marquette cement plant, and behind the cement plant, there was a neighborhood. This was before OSHA. Before OSHA. But so some of these families moved here, most of them, in fact. And so that's why if there was any one story that I thought should stand out, I would say it would be from the beginning, and we would be. There's so many stories that can come out. And like I said, we've been trying to capture as many as we can. Maybe you have a story about Valley Junction that doesn't yet live in our space. We would welcome any story to help us keep putting the fabric of what we call community, right? And so that's the answer to that question. It would be across the tracks.
You had a question?
Jonathan and Barb Long.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me who they are?
My parents.
Okay.
Yeah. John and Barb Long. That's my mom and dad. Yeah.
The stories that people have, how long they've gotten to you, are they like written down in a book that people could, look through, or are they?
So once we get these stories, every year we put out what we call a commemorative booklet. And so we have, since 2013, 14, 15, so we have about 10 or 12 books now. And so the stories that we gather are in this book. And they're also on our website. So if you go to our website, www.tasteofthejunction.org, those booklets are also on our website. So you can actually flip the pages and see the books. I think we need to get 2024 and our 2023 book on the site, but those books do live. So once we have these stories, they live on our website, and then we also publish them the year that we create them in a commemorative booklet.
Which is good.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. And I am Rachelle's sister, she is my day one. But I wanted to add, John and Barbara Long, we worked with this, I get choked up. The city of West Des Moines. They were the first residential persons to get a roadway, honorary roadway. When we initially applied, when Dad passed in 22, because they did everything in the community. They did. They helped whoever needed help. We didn't have no respect of person. They helped. They built the foundation for the Eddie Davis Community Center that is down on Maple, which has the food, the clothes, the dinners. I mean everything, helping people. So they had volunteered and had been honored across the city, across the state, across the nation. So for that reason, we went to the city of West Des Moines and said, we want to name Maple Street, not Maple Street, but an honorary underneath Maple Street. So after a few, thank you Renee and others from the West Des Moines City Council, a few minutes, because first they said we don't have a policy, we've never done that before. Okay, let us help you. How about we all come together and make this possible and give an opportunity for others to be recognized at coming after them. So it was what, 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago?
Last year,
That's it.
2023.
Woo, 2023. I'm biased when we're having that. So they did approve 14th and Maple has the honorary sign, 5th Street, 8th Street, and 1st Street. So to God be the glory all the way from the beginning, 1st Street, all the way through down as far as Maple Street goes. But another story that I remember is when Mom and I get choked up.
You need a hug?
Yeah. When they built their house, right? This was 1969, I believe. But they wanted to move across Grand. Are you kidding me? That's not going to happen. You're not coming past Grand Avenue. No, we can't do that. It kind of relates to what Rachelle was speaking to. The people of color was across, started behind the cement plant, and they could come to across the tracks, but that don't come over. But anyways, they were unable to find it. What was unable to get approved to move on the other side of Grand. So they decided to build a house from scratch. And the community came together to say,
And did.
we lived in another home up on 9th Street for almost a year. While they built the house, because we could only afford to do so much at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But through it all, friends, partners, I'll never forget the electrician. He just wanted a 6-pack of beer done. Stuff like that. But we worked together and they helped build 123 11th Street. That was community also. So.
And I just want to say, I'll be remiss not to say this. When you look at the Rodish slide, Dina Rodish was the mayor, but Miss Mary Frances Rodish, she carried a big stick. She championed for our neighborhood. Before my mom and dad was championed for the neighborhood, Miss Mary Frances Rodish championed for our neighborhood. And so there's remnants of that. So if you go into Holiday Park, I think there might be 5 or 6 diamonds now but there's a Rhodish field, there's a Kimball field, and there's a Turks field. And so Dino, because we did their story this year, and so he told me about how his mom, they used to have card parties on Fridays at their house. They used to live on the corner of 12th and Maple, and they would often have little card parties. And so Mr. Turks, the Kimballs were frequent at the card parties. And so at one of those card parties, they were talking about Miss Mary Frances, and they said, we need a girls softball diamond. Because at the time, they just had the boys baseball. And so Miss Mary Frances and the Turks, and so how this worked out is that the Turks and the Kimballs, they were city workers. You know, one of them worked for Parks and Recs. And so this is Dino telling me this story. He said, so it was just over a card party that they said, you know what, we're going to go to the city and we're going to tell them that we want a softball diamond for the girls. And so this is like back in 1963. And Dino said the first year, while they were trying to develop the lower part of Holiday Park for softball, the boys' baseball diamond, he said the first year they shaved off the mound, because you know the boys, they have that mound when they pitch from, but the girls, it's flat. And so he said the first year they had them shave the mound off so that the girls could play on that field. And then eventually, of course, what you see now in the Holiday Park is well visited. It's just a wonderful park, and those fields are still there, Kimball, Rhodish, and Turks. So sometimes you see names and you're like, how those names get up there? There's a story behind that. And Miss Rhodish, Dino said, she got a lot of credit for it, he said, but it was also the Turks and the Kimballs sitting down at a card party, just trying to, you know, figure out the neighborhood and how they can make things better. And they said the girls deserve a space to recreate as well. So I think that's Mr. Kimball. I'm not sure if it's Kimball or Turks, but up there in the upper level, she's so proud because those are her granddaughters that were on Miss Mary Frances with her granddaughters at the Holiday Park. So that's an important piece of Valley Junction as well. Any other questions? Yes.
When was he a mayor, Dino?
Like during the floods of '93. So Dina was a mayor.
If I remember the name.
Yeah.
Looks like it was April 1993.
Yeah, I know he was during the floods of '93. I'll never forget him coming through the neighborhood with the bullhorn telling everybody, I know we've had floods before, but this one you need to evacuate. Because we've lived through floods in the junction, and oftentimes it would just flood, but people didn't leave. But he actually came through the neighborhood on a fire truck telling us all to evacuate, and had he not, lives would have been lost. Because the junction, everybody remembers the floods in '93, it was saturated. And the action of the city saved a lot of lives, and a lot of people listened, and most of the people, we evacuated the junction. So, yep.
You did something like that.
I'd just like to, I don't really have a question, but I would like to. Hey, everybody. I'm Renee Hardman, West Des Moines City Councilwoman, member at large. And I really just want to say a couple of comments because it's really heavy on my heart. And I want to first of all thank Rachelle and her team and her board for keeping history alive. As you all sit here and you listen, I hope that you learned one thing about this area, how important it is to the city. This is our humble beginnings. This is where West Des Moines was born. West Des Moines was not born where Jordan Creek Mall is and all of this other stuff. It's growing. It wasn't born where Top Golf is, okay? It was born in this area with good people. And the taste is keeping that alive. The taste is saying, we aren't going anywhere until you understand about our history. And when I ran for office, I went and I sat next to Miss Barbara Long, who I idolized. There were 4 or 5 African-American women that were everything that anybody ever wanted to be. it was Miss Willie Glanton, Barbara Long, Evelyn Gay Davis. They were this group of black women that you watched and you said, I just want to be like them. Because they were always trailblazers. They were always running against the tide. Okay, what they did was not easy. Okay, they set the path for me, actually. And I was so honored when she blessed me about running for office. And I have a picture of her sitting next to her at a church. And it's one of my favorite pictures because I needed her to bless this process that I was going through. When I knocked on doors, when a white man told me that colored women aren't elected in city council. That was just 6 years ago, okay? 6 years ago. So preserving our history is important, and what Rachelle Long and her team and her family are doing is critical. I think anybody that runs for office in West Des Moines should sit down with the Taste of Junction for an interview to understand how West Des Moines became what it is today. So I just want to say thank you. My sorority sat and had dinner in the museum, so if you ever want to have an activity there, you got to work it through them. And but we set up tables, we had caterers, and we had a meal there. It was fit for a queen, and we had meals there, and we were surrounded by all this history. And then Rachelle came in and she talked. So it's a good place to have an outing and activity. And then finally, before I take my seat, it takes money to run the Taste of the Junction. The Taste of the Junction is not just happening because Rochelle's just volunteering to do this, although that's about what she's doing. But it costs money. So even if you have $20, $5, $10, whatever you have to give, it's going to go to good use to keep promoting the city. So it can't operate by itself. I ask that you consider to support this organization, no matter how large or no, how much, they'll take whatever you have. $20 goes a long way to sending out thank you notes and letters for support and all of those things. So if you like what you hear, you like what you see, I encourage you to support it financially in whatever small or large way that you can. But I just want to thank this family. I want to thank my friend Rachelle. She's a sister from another mother for me. I enjoy her so much. And she's doing great things for the city of West Des Moines. She's doing awesome things.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to bring Gail back up here. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been wonderful. I think we focus so much on James Jordan's history. It's just one layer in so much. So I want to thank you for your time. Thank you all for coming, and definitely any nonprofit, it takes funding to support it. So thank you, Renee, for saying that and acknowledging that there's a lot of time and talent in nonprofits, and we do add a lot. All right, next Iowa Files. We're going to stay in spooky season. So Sunday, November 17th, we're going to be learning about Woodland Cemetery and the story behind this iconic landmark. It was founded in 1848, which was 3 years before the city of Des Moines was incorporated. Those newbies. And it is one of the very first city parks. So this is a time when, during the Victorian era, cemeteries were a place where families would go. It would take all day to get there, so you're going to bring a picnic and you're going to hang out and talk to your relatives who were there. So there'll be a lot more about that. So that is here at the West Des Moines Library on Sunday, November 17th. Thanks to the library, the Friends Foundation, and all the support we get. And go visit Taste of the Junction's museum. It is awesome. Thank you.